Dear viewer students, uh, let us discuss one of the prose units, The Death of the Moth, written by Virginia Woolf, who was born in 1882 and lived up to 1941. Uh, in the earlier session, we had discussed a short story by uh, uh, by Singh Bedi, Lajwanti, which was noted as the partition story, and also it could be read with the feminist point of view and humanitarian point of view. With that, we learned how to read story and how to analyze the story. But today, we are going to read it's an essay as well as a story like also. Or in other words, we can say it is not either an essay or a story because here some ideas are analyzed, ideas are elaborated, and at the same time it gives this piece of writing presents us the picture of the moth and its life and its struggle and its failure and its awkwardness and its death. And that picture, which is depicted by the writer, seems to be very poignant, very heart touching. And that's why it's not either an essay or a story, it is having both the qualities of an essay and qualities of a story. And that's why this piece of writing is between an essay and a short story. So here we can comprehend the prose. We have to understand this prose piece, this prose unit, what theme it contains and what substance it has in its depth, and what issues are to be analyzed here. So that is one intention of reading this piece of prose. And another, to recognize simple grammar structures of sentences. So with reading this essay, we have to concentrate upon how we can learn grammar and we can learn language. And very important thing is we have to know this essay to compare the life and death of the moth with that of human beings, especially with that of Virginia Woolf. So with these objectives, we can read this essay. Okay, let us first try to know something about the writer. This writer, Virginia Woolf, is a 20th century writer. She is noted as a novelist. She became so well known in the history of English literature for her fiction, for her novels. But she is a versatile literature. She is a versatile literature because she didn't restrict herself only to fictions. She wrote essays, she wrote poems, she wrote criticism, and also she uh, participated in the movements of women rights as an activist. So that's why she is a versatile writer. She is a versatile woman of letters. The very important thing we have to uh, find out in her life, and we have to be very concentrated upon, is that she was in depression for a longer period of her life, and that depression might be caused by many of the deaths happened in her family. Uh, Her sister Stella died at the age of 28, and her father died. And earlier to her father's death, her mother had also been no more. And all these deaths, one of her brothers, Toby, died of typhoid in 1906 when their family was on an excursion to Greece. And all these deaths actually had propelled her into a nervous breakdown. And later, she started to write some of her childhood memories, and that was published in in her own press with the title Reminiscences, that detailed her childhood days and detailed something about her lost mother. Especially between 1910 and 1915, her mental health was very, very precarious. That's why she made a suicide attempt in 1913 due to depression, and she was in depression because of her failure in writing, because of her failure in writing means she didn't find that much of success as she had some ambition to be a successful writer, and that made her to be in depression. And due to that depression, she made an attempt to commit suicide. Then very often she used to fall delirious. She used to get some mental imbalance. In 1917, her family purchased the Hogarth Press, and then she engaged herself in running that Hogarth Press, and she published two stories of hers. One was Three Jews, another was The Mark on the Wall. These two were published in her own press, and later, as she engaged in the management of the press, she came out of her depression a little bit. Very importantly, we have to know that this writer Virginia Woolf likes to present real life prototypes in her writing, in the world of her writings. As it was a protest, as it was a retort against materialism, against superficiality of the romantic writers of the earlier period, or the her contemporaries. And she was well known for her fictions like Mrs. Dalloway uh, and To the Lighthouse. These are the famous novels of Virginia Woolf. See, To the Lighthouse and Mrs. Dalloway are popular novels. And also, she wrote so many fictions, and she wrote dozens of novels, for which she became a very noted, a very well considered, well known writer in the history of English literature. So I think this much is enough as far the writer is concerned. And then let us move on to this prose unit, The Death of the Moth. Before we read the text, before we go to the text and its elaboration, let me give you some introduction to this text. The Death of the Moth, the very title itself tells us that there is a detailed account of how the moth dies after a great struggle to get up and to make itself right. It dies, it completely fails in getting up, and it dies, it reaches its end. And that is very heart-touchingly depicted in this piece of writing, with which we can see some of her autobiographical elements. We can see some autobiographical elements. So we can observe that here, this tiny creature, which is struggling against the greatest force of the creation, the greatest force of this existence. But ultimately, this tiny creature fails. This tiny creature struggles with all its energy, but it fails. But ultimately, that greatest force wins. The victory is on the side of the greatest force. But that is ironically ended up in this piece of writing. That is ironically said by the writer by the end of this essay, The Death of the Moth, because that is the greatest force. But this moth is the smallest. This moth is the tiny creature. And how this tiny creature dies after its great struggle with all its energy, that greatest force remains indifferent, that greatest force remains unaffected with the death of this moth. And this is very ironically said, sarcastically expressed by this writer in this essay. ಈ ಎಸ್ಸೆಯನ್ನು ಓದೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಈ ಎಸ್ಸೆದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಪೂರ್ವಭಾವಿಯಾದಂಥ ಒಂದು ತಿಳುವಳಿಕೆ ನಮಗೆ ಏನಿರಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ, ಈ ಟೈಟ್ಲನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದರೆ ದ ಡೆತ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಮಾತ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಟೈಟ್ಲ್ ಇದೆ. ಈ ಮಾತ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಈ ಚಿಟ್ಟೆ ಐತಲ್ಲ, ಈ ಪೆಸ್ಟ್, ವೆರಿ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಪೆಸ್ಟ್, ವೆರಿ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಇನ್ಸೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇದು ಸಾಯುವ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ, ಅದು ಸಾಯೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಅದು ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಹೋರಾಟ, ತನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಶಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಒಗ್ಗೂಡಿಸಿ ಅದು ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಹೋರಾಟ, ಅಲ್ಟಿಮೇಟ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಸಾಯೋದು. ಯಾವುದರ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಹೋರಾಟ ಮಾಡ್ತೈತಿ? ಸಾವಿನ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಹೋರಾಟ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. ಆ ಸಾವನ್ನು ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ತಂದೊಡ್ಡಿದವ್ರು ಯಾರು? ಯಾರು ಈ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಷನ್ಗೆ ಕಾರಣ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೋ, ಅಥವಾ ಯಾರು ಈ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನೆಲ್ಲ, ಈ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಯೊಳಗೆ ಏನೇನೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾರಣ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಅವರು, ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಈ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಷನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾರಣ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ ಆ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಎಂಥದ್ದು ಅಂದರೆ ಅದು ದ ಗ್ರೇಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಫೋರ್ಸ್. ಅಂದರೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಶಕ್ತಿಯುತವಾದಂಥದ್ದು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಶಕ್ತಿ ಈ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಷನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದೇ ಗ್ರೇಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಆದಂಥ ಪವರ್. ಆ ಗ್ರೇಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಆದಂಥ ಫೋರ್ಸು, ಆ ಗ್ರೇಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಆದಂಥ ಪವರು ಇದನ್ನು ಸಾಯೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಆವಾಗ ಈ ಇಡೀ ನೇಚರಿನ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್ ಏನು, ನೇಚರ್ನೊಳಗಿರೋ ಅಂಥ ಅದರ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್ಸ್ಗಳ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್ ಏನು, ಮತ್ತು ಆ ಒಂದು ಗ್ರೇಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಪವರ್ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಇಟ್ ರಿಮೇನ್ಸ್ ಇಂಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್, ಅದು ತುಂಬ ಏನು ನನಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನಂಗೆ ಅದಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾವುದೇ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಆಗದೆ ಉಳಿದೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಇದೇನು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಜಯ ಅನ್ನುವ ಥರ ಅದು ತನಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗದೆ ಹಾಗೆ ಅದು ಉಳಿದೋಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಫೋರ್ಸು, ಆ ಪವರ್, ದ ಗ್ರೇಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಪವರು, ಅದನ್ನು ಇವಳು ತುಂಬ ವಿಡಂಬನಾತ್ಮಕವಾಗಿ, ತುಂಬ ವ್ಯಂಗ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಡೆಪಿಕ್ಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾಳೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ನೋಡುವಾಗ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೋ ಆ ಟೋನನ್ನು ನಾವು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಬಹುಶಃ ಈ ಮಹತ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಈ ರೈಟರ್ ವರ್ಜೀನಿಯಾ ವುಲ್ಫೇ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಮತ್ತು ಇವಳ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಡೆತ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಇವಳ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಇವಳ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದೆಷ್ಟು ಬಾರಿ ಇವಳಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ಎರಗಿದೆ, ಬಂದು ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಅದು ಇಟ್ ಮೇ ಬಿ ಇನ್ ದ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಡೆತ್ ಆಫ್ ಅವರ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ದ ಡೆತ್ ಆಫ್ ಅವರ್ ಬ್ರದರ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಡೆತ್ ಆಫ್ ಫಾದರ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಡೆತ್ ಆಫ್ ಮದರ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಡೆತ್ಗಳು ಬಂದು ಇವಳನ್ನ ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದವೋ. ಇವಳು ಒಂದು ಟೈನಿ ಕ್ರೀಚರು, ನಾನೊಂದು ಟೈನಿ ಕ್ರೀಚರು, ಈ ಫೋರ್ಸು, ಈ ಪವರು, ಗ್ರೇಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಪವರ್ ನನಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ನಾನು ಸ್ಟ್ರಗಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬದುಕಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಆದರೂ ಬದುಕೋಕ್ಕಾಗದೆ ಆ ಅಂತ್ಯದ ಅಂಚಿಗೆ ನಾನು ಹೋಗಿ ನಿಂತಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಆಗ ಈ ಪ್ರಕೃತಿ ಅಥವಾ ಈ ಪ್ರಕೃತಿಯೊಳಗಿರೋ ಈ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಷನ್ನಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಗ್ರೇಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಫೋರ್ಸು ಯಾವ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ಗೂ ಒಳಗಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಏನು ಭಾರಿ ನಾನು ಗೆದ್ದುಬಿಟ್ಟೆ ಅನ್ನಂಗೆ ಅದು ಬೀಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಇವಳು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾಳೆ ಅನಿಸ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ನೌ ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಮೂವ್ ಆನ್ ಟು ದ ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್. See, moths that fly by day are not properly to be called moths. They do not excite that pleasant sense of dark autumn nights and ivy blossom, which the commonest yellow underwing asleep in the shadow of the curtain never fails to rouse in us. See, this moth is not a noticeable creature. It is a tiny creature. It is in any way not attractive, in any way not so special, not so valuable. Such a pest or such an insect, moth, flies here and there in the day. Nobody bothers about its presence. Nobody notices its presence. Like that, it is unattractive. But with its yellowish underwing, its yellowish underwing makes us to turn towards it. At least a little bit of its color of yellow, underwing yellow, that makes us to turn towards that. And it is a hybrid creature. It is a hybrid creature. Means it is neither so gay-like or attractive or which makes us happy as a butterfly, and it is a somber, means it is a dull kind of a species. It is a dull kind of living being. See, nevertheless, the present specimen with his narrow hay-colored wings fringed with a tassel of the same color seem to be content with life. It comes flying to the window sill as if it is fully satisfied with its life. It is hay-colored one, that's why it's not so amicable to look at. It is not so appeasable to look at. It's not so happy to look at. it is a very dull one, and it is not so attractive like butterfly. Like this, in the beginning 6 to 8 lines, the writer presents us how that moth looks and what is its appearance. So that is given in the beginning. And then let us see. She gives us the picture of the existing nature by that time. What is that season? See here, it was a pleasant morning mid-September. It is mid-September, means it may be autumn, between winter and spring, between winter and summer. There is a threshold to the summer, that is what we call autumn. So Sharat Kala. So it is an autumn, very mild and benignant, yet with a keener breath than that of the summer months. So that season is a very mild season. There is no pricking cold as in the peak of the winter season. It is a mild and benignant, very favorable kind of an atmosphere is there, at a keener breath than that of the summer months. So favorable, so comfortable, and so happy season it is, even to breathe and even to walk outside. So the plough was already scoring the field opposite the window. She was inside her house, looking through the window. She could see the farmers scoring their fields. The farmers are plowing their fields to cultivate, to make them ready for sowing. So, field opposite the window, and where the share had been, the earth was pressed flat and gleamed with moisture. And the whole earth is made ready, and it is with some moisture, in some wet, some wetness is there in the field. So such a vigor came rolling in from the fields, and the down beyond that it was difficult to keep the eyes strictly turned upon the book. And it was such a beautiful atmosphere outside, and that's why it is a very difficult thing for anybody to sit and read continuously, losing the opportunity of going out and spending some time amidst the very beautiful atmosphere, very beautiful season. So by that time, the rooks too were keeping one of their annual festivities. So if you go into the atmosphere, if you go into the outside nature, you will see the rooks too were keeping one of their annual festivities. If you look at the flying birds, you feel that they are also celebrating their festival. They are in the mood of festivity. They are in a mood of festivity. They are soaring so high up in the sky, means they are flying so high up in the sky, and they will just come down over the top of the trees, and all of them come so spread like a vast net, and they will come and sit on the twigs of the tree, as if the net is spread all over, and all of them come and sit on the twigs of the tree. And those sitting birds, those sitting rooks on the twigs seem to be the knots of the tree on the top. And again, they will remain there on the twigs of the tree, and they will fly once again high. Like that, we see the the thousands of roots spreading in the sky over the tree appear like the beautiful net, and when they come down and sit on the twigs of the tree top, and we see them as the knots on the tree, knots on the twigs. Then suddenly the net would be thrown into the air again in a wider circle this time. They will sit for a few minutes and they will fly again so high. When they fly so high, that net spread all over that tree appear like going high. And that is thrown into, that seems like being thrown into the air. That net seems to be thrown into the air when all the rooks in thousands fly high. And also they will make some utmost clamor. They make some sound. They will make some clamor and vociferous sound they will make, as though to be thrown into the air and settle slowly down upon the tree tops, were a tremendously exciting experience. And this kind of a scene we can see is a tremendous experience. It is an extremely an exciting experience to see this kind of the picture of the nature where the rooks fly so high in thousands. They appear to be the net spreading in the sky, and they come down and sit on the branches of the trees, and that seems to be so that seems to be the knots on each twig, and after a few minutes they will once again fly high, and that makes us feel that the net is thrown into the air. And this is how the nature is pictured in the first paragraph of this essay. ಈ ಪ್ಯಾರಾಗ್ರಾಫಲ್ಲಿ ಮೊದಲು ಮಾತನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಚಿತ್ರಣವನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾಳೆ. ಆ ಮಾತು ಹೆಂಗಿತ್ತು, ಅದೊಂದು ಆರ್ಡಿನರಿ ಇನ್ಸೆಕ್ಟ್, ಒಂದು ಆರ್ಡಿನರಿ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಇನ್ಸೆಕ್ಟು. ಆ ಆರ್ಡಿನರಿ ಇನ್ಸೆಕ್ಟು ಹೆಂಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂದರೆ ತುಂಬ ಅನ್ನೋಟಿಸೇಬಲ್, ಅದೇನಂತ ಗಮನಾರ್ಹವಾದದ್ದಲ್ಲ, ಅದನ್ನು ಹೊರಳಿ ನೋಡುವಂಥದ್ದೇನಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ತುಂಬಾ ಆರ್ಡಿನರಿ ಆದ, ಯಾರೂ ಗಮನಿಸಲಾರ್ದಂಥ ಒಂದು ಹೇ ಕಲರ್ಡ್ ಒಂದು ಹುಳು. ಅದು ಹಾರ್ತಾ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದರೆ ನಾವು ಯಾರೂ ಅದನ್ನು ಹೊಳ್ಳಿ ನೋಡಲ್ಲ. ಆದರೆ ಅದರ ವಿಂಗಿನ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಒಂಚೂರು ಯೆಲ್ಲೋಯಿಶ್, ಸ್ಲೈಟ್ಲಿ ಯೆಲ್ಲೋಯಿಶ್ ಕಲರ್ ಇತ್ತು. ಅದಿಷ್ಟು ಮಾತ್ರ ಒಂಚೂರು ಎದ್ದು ಕಾಣೋದು. ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಗಮನಿಸ್ಬೋದಾಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂಥದ್ದು. ಆದರೆ ಇದು ತುಂಬ ಅಟ್ರ್ಯಾಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆದಂಥ ಈ ಬಟರ್ಫ್ಲೈಗಳಂತ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಬಟರ್ಫ್ಲೈಯನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರಾಗ ತುಂಬ ಅಟ್ರ್ಯಾಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆದ ಪೇಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ಥರ ಕಲರ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ತಾವೆ. ಸೊ ಅದು ನೋಡಿದರೆ ಒಂದು ಆನಂದ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ನೋಡ್ಬೇಕನ್ನಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಥರ ನೋಡುವಂಥದ್ದೇನಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಒಂದು ಡಲ್ ಆದಂಥ ಸಾಂಬರ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಇನ್ಸೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಂಥ ಒಂದು ಇನ್ಸೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇದು. ಇದನ್ನ ಯಾರೇನು ಭಾರಿ ಗಮನವಿಟ್ಟು ನೋಡಲ್ಲ. ಇದನ್ನು ಯಾಕೆ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾಳೆ ಇವಳು ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ಬಹುಶಃ ಶಿ ಈಸ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ ವೆರಿ ಮೆಟಿಕ್ಯುಲಸ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವರ್. ಶಿ ಈಸ್ ಆ್ಯನ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವರ್ ಆಫ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಸೋ ಮೆಟಿಕ್ಯುಲಸ್ಲಿ. ಯಾವುದನ್ನು ನಾವು ನೆಗ್ಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವೋ ಅಂಥದನ್ನು ಇವಳು ತುಂಬಾ ಸೂಕ್ಷ್ಮವಾಗಿ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಅಂಥ ಗುಣ ಈ ರೈಟರ್ಗೆ ಇದೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇದೇನು ಅಂಥ ಅಟ್ರ್ಯಾಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆದ ಹುಳು ಅಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಯಾರೂ ನೋಡಲೇಬೇಕಾದ ಅಂತ ಗಮನಿಸಬೇಕಾದಂಥ ಹುಳು ಏನಲ್ಲ. ಆದರೂ ಒಂಚೂರು ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಕಲರ್ ನಮಗೆ ನೋಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ಸಂಗೆ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಅಷ್ಟು ಬಿಟ್ಟರೆ ಇದು ತುಂಬ ಡಲ್ಲಾದಂಥದ್ದೇ, ಇದೇನು ಬಟರ್ಫ್ಲೈ ಅದಷ್ಟು ಬ್ಯೂಟಿಫುಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಇದೊಂದು ಹೇ ಕಲರ್ಡ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂಥರ ಮಸುಕಾದ ಒಣಗಿದ ಹುಲ್ಲಿನ ಒಂದು ಮಸುಕಾದ ಕಲರು, ಇದನ್ನೇನು ನೋಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸೋಂಥ ಹುಳು ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದ್ರ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಅಂಥದನ್ನು ಇವಳು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಳೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಇವಳ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಟಿವ್ ಟೆಂಡೆನ್ಸಿ ಹೆಂಗೈತಿ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಗಮನಿಸ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಹಾಫ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪ್ಯಾರಾಗ್ರಾಫ್ ಸಿ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ದ ಪಿಕ್ಚರ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ನೇಚರ್. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸೀಸನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಸೆಪ್ಟೆಂಬರ್ ಸೀಸನ್ನು, ಮತ್ತು ಇದು ಅಲ್ಲಿಯ ಒಂದು ಆಟಮ್ನ ಸೀಸನ್ನು. ಆಟಮ್ನ ಅಂದರೆ ಶರತ್ಕಾಲ, ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಸಮ್ಮರ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವಿಂಟರ್ ಮಧ್ಯದ ಕಾಲನ ಆಟಮ್ನ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಆ ಟೈಮ್ ಎಂಥದ್ದು ಅಂದರೆ ತುಂಬ ಮೈಲ್ಡ್ ಆದಂಥ, ತುಂಬ ಫೇವರೇಬಲ್ ಆದಂಥ, ತುಂಬ ಆಹ್ಲಾದಕರವಾದಂಥ, ಕೀನರ್ ಬ್ರೆತ್ ದೆನ್ ದಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಸಮ್ಮರ್ ಮಂತ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ, ತುಂಬ ಆಹ್ಲಾದಕರವಾದಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸೀಸನ್ನು. ಈ ಸೀಸನ್ನು ಹೊರಗೆ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಎತ್ತ ನೋಡಿದ್ರು ಕಿಟಕಿ ಆಚೆ ಇವಳು ನೋಡಿದರೆ ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಲೋ ಶೇರ್ಸ್ ದೇ ವೇರ್ ಸ್ಕೋರಿಂಗ್ ದೇರ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ಸ್. ಅಂದರೆ ರೈತ ತನ್ನ ರಂಟಿಯ ಕುಳದಿಂದ ಹೊಲನ ಬಗಿತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ, ಹೊಲನ ಫ್ಲ್ಯಾಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ, ರೆಡಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ ಅಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸೀಸನ್ ಇದು. ಮತ್ತು ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸೀಸನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ಬುಕ್ ರೀಡರ್ಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಒಳಗೇ ಅವರ್ಸ್ ಟುಗೆದರ್ ಕೂತು ಬುಕ್ ಓದಿ ಕಾಲ ಕಳೆಯೋಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಸುಂದರವಾದಂಥ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಕೃತಿ ವಾತಾವರಣ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಕೂತು ಓದೋಕೆ ಭಾಳ ಮನಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಬೇಸರ ಆಕೈತಿ, ಹೊರಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ, ಅಂಥ ಒಂದು ಫೇವರೇಬಲ್ ಆದಂಥ ವಾತಾವರಣ. ಮತ್ತು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ರೂಕ್ಸ್ಗಳು, ಬರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಸಾವಿರ ಸಂಖ್ಯೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾರಿ ಆಕಾಶದ ಎತ್ತರದಿಂದ ಆಕಾಶದುದ್ದಗಲಕ್ಕೂ ಚಾಚಿಕೊಂಡು ಹಾರಿ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತವೆ. ಅವಾಗ ನೋಡಿದರೆ ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ನೆಟ್ ಥರ, ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಬಲೆಯ ಥರ, ನಮಗೆ ಭೂಮಿ ಮೇಲಿದ್ದು ತಲೆ ಎತ್ತಿ ನೋಡುವ ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಬಲೆಯ ಥರ ಕಾಣ್ತವೆ ಆಕಾಶದ ಎತ್ತರಕ್ಕೆ. ಅವು ಹಾಗೆ ಹಾರ್ತಾ ಇಳಿದು ಬಂದವೇ ಗಿಡ ಮರಗಳ ತುದಿಯ ಹರಿಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ, ತುದಿಯ ಚಿಗುರುಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂತವು. ಅವು ಕುಂತಾಗ ಕಪ್ಪಾದ ಕಲರ್ನ ರೂಕ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಆ ಮರದ ಟೊಂಗೆಯ ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಒಂದು ನಾಟ್ಸ್ಗಳ ಥರ ಕಾಣ್ತವೆ. ನಾಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಕಟ್ಟಿಗೆಯ ಗಂಟು ಥರ ಕಾಣ್ತವೆ. ಕೆಲವು ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ಗಳು ಅಥವಾ ನಿಮಿಷಗಳವರೆಗೆ ಕೂತು ಮತ್ತೆ ಅವು ಹಾರ್ತವೆ. ಅವು ಹಾರಿದಾಗ ಏಕಕಾಲಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ವಿಸ್ತಾರವಾದಂಥ ಬಲೆನ ಆಕಾಶದ ಎತ್ತರಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಎಸೆದ ತರಹ, ಆಕಾಶದ ಎತ್ತರಕ್ಕೆ ಹರಡಿದ ತರಹ ನಮಗೆ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. ಎಂಥ ಸುಂದರವಾದಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸೀನು. ಮತ್ತು ಆ ಎಲ್ಲ ರೂಕ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಒಂದು ಹಬ್ಬದ ಆಚರಣೆಯಲ್ಲಿದ್ದ ಥರ ಇವಳಿಗೆ ಕಾಣ್ತವಂತೆ. ಅವು ಹಾರಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಹಾರಲ್ಲ, ಅವು ಸೌಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹಾರ್ತವೆ. ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಈ ಎಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ನೇಚರ್ ಐತಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಎಷ್ಟು ಟ್ರಮಂಡಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸೈಟಿಂಗ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸನ್ನು ನಮಗೆ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. ಅಷ್ಟು ಬ್ಯೂಟಿಫುಲ್ ಆದಂಥ ನೇಚರ್ ಸಿ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ ಟು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್, ಸಿ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ ಟು ಸಿ ಬೈ ದ ಟೈಮ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ how she presents the picture of the moth in the beginning and then the picture of the nature. And in the next paragraph of this writing, she presents how that moth comes flying and alights on the window downs, and how it makes its movement there, and how it is so happy and comfortable and satisfied with its life. And that she explains in the next paragraph. So we shall have the discussion on the next paragraph in the next session. I think you could understand what we discussed so far. So it's very important to know the writer's background, writer's life in brief, because that writer's life experience is very much connected with the theme of this piece of writing, because all that she experiences in her life uh, is most probably compared with that tiny creature's experience of struggle to reach an end. So that is a very important thing to be concentrated upon. That's why I first presented you some short details of the writer's life, and that helps you to understand this essay well and to analyze this essay with lots of approaches and lots of interpretations and lots of levels of meanings. So, uh, with this much, I think it's enough as for the today's discussion is concerned. Thank you. Thank you, Ananda.